Can you beat Super Mario 64's Bob-omb Battlefield if Minecraft blocks fill the entire level? Oh, Super Mario 64, you've been reinvented, changed, and modded into experiences beyond what you were meant for. I've completed you with thousands of Goombas, the entire world being flooded, objects being converted to coins, the floor being turned into mad pianos, and even one time where an A-press happened every single frame. But you know what Mario 64 could use? It could use a little more Minecraft. What if we filled Super Mario 64 to the brim with blocks just like Minecraft? Could we beat Bob-omb Battlefield? You may think this sounds easy, but it's not. In fact, this was over a 6-hour-long endeavor, and I'm going to tell you why soon enough. But, of course, absurd videos like this wouldn't be possible without the support of awesome games like Trove, which just launched for free on Nintendo Switch. Trove is a voxel action MMO, where you explore and fight your way through a cube-shaped, procedurally generated world, with the creative freedom to build your own. There are a total of 16 different classes that you can unlock and swap between. I chose the Boomer Ranger, which is like an archer that also has access to a boomerang that can hit several foes at once. There's dungeons to explore, worlds to create, and boundless adventures to be had within Trove's different play modes. And with the launch of the Nintendo Switch version, you can now make that experience portable and play anywhere at your home. Trove's worlds are fully destructible, meaning you can shape them the way you want to. There's also a wide variety of mounts you can obtain as well, so you can ride through the world in style. Trove just dropped the Nintendo Switch for free, so if you're looking to embark on your next blocky adventure, be sure to click my link in the description below to play right now. It's also available on PC and other consoles for free as well. And a huge thanks to Trove for sponsoring this video and supporting my channel on YouTube. So before we talk about Super Mario 64, first we need to talk about the parallel universe Minecraft. Those of you who are Minecraft fanatics won't need me to explain things to you, but I'm just going to touch on some things briefly. So in Minecraft, there's this thing called a chunk, and a chunk is a giant cluster of blocks, so to speak. In fact, a chunk on the surface is 16 by 16 blocks, but it spans downwards a total of 256 blocks. So in total, one chunk is equivalent to 65,565 blocks by today's measurements. Several chunks around you are loaded in at a time, while other chunks are vacant, and this keeps the game running smoothly with the massive amount of blocks that make up the world. Okay, Minecraft aside, let's hop back over to Super Mario 64. So Super Mario 64 doesn't have a wide variety of breakable surfaces. I mean, we can squash womps, punch holes in walls, strike yellow blocks, or crush Corkboxes. That last one being key. So the idea for this whole concept actually came from a mod I made a few years back, about making a Corkbox fortress in the sky above Womp's fortress. There were 8 red coins hidden within the blocks, and you had to get all the red coins without getting knocked off and dying. And for this, I tediously measured out each block and placed it manually. And the funny thing is, this idea was actually inspired by something else. So it was basically a chain of inspiration. In Super Mario Bros. 3, there is a spiral tower in World 5 that you take to reach the clouds. And halfway through this level, you come out to the clouds, and everything is made out of brick blocks that can be broken. I always thought this was neat, and this is what inspired my Super Mario 64 mod. Chasing this chain of inspiration to today, we're taking that same concept, the large breakable cork box, and generating a grid of boxes that will consume the entire level. Now there's a problem with this. Super Mario 64's engine isn't as robust as Minecraft's, so if we did 50 blocks wide by 50 blocks long and 50 blocks deep, well, we're talking about 125,000 blocks. And if we bump that up to 100, that's 1,000,000. These numbers are going to break Super Mario 64's kneecaps under their sheer weight. The game's engine, no matter how you spin it, isn't going to be able to load that. Well, outright that is. But there is a solution. So the beauty of blocks is that they're equal on all sides. When they stack up, they essentially become bigger blocks. Take 4 cork boxes and push them into a square, and then add 4 more on top, and you now have a big block that's 8 cork boxes. Take 4 by 4 by 4 blocks, and you have 64 cork boxes put together as one big block. They take up the same amount of physical space in terms of the 3D environment in the game. Now, it is still 64 objects, but with a little modding magic, these 64 objects can be stored inside one giant object. So that means when we shatter this giant block, the game will call upon the 64 blocks stored inside of it. This allows us to save tons of memory by only loading in the individual blocks when Mario will be breaking them. Mario 64 map sizes are 16,384 squared by 8,192 in terms of coordinates. So we're going to adjust the size of our blocks to fit 2,025 blocks that are 1,200 cubed big. So in total, 129,600 blocks, or almost the size of 2 Minecraft chunks rotate on their side. And when these big blocks are hit, they spawn in 64 blocks in the spot. This saves tons of memory for blocks that the player will probably never interact with, say beneath the level or out of bounds. And that saves our object limits in Mario 64. That's how all this runs, and there's more to it than that, but I don't want to go off on another long tangent. So, how does Super Mario 64 play when the entire game is filled with Corkboxes simulating Minecraft? Well, it no longer becomes a game about speed, that's for sure. When we start the game, the opening cutscene is a lot different than I remember. And when we get ejected out of the pipe, we actually spawn inside of a block. Once we punch the giant block around us, they begin to break down to the individual component blocks. And we can either start tunneling outward, slowly revealing the hidden land, or we can try going skyward by creating a staircase. Both have their perks, which I'll go over a bit later. Making a way to the castle like this is really bizarre. Mario's best move for breaking blocks is his punch, since his kick sends him back too far. As we carve our way to the bridge, Lakitu comes down and gives us a chat. We then unearth the door and make our way inside. Now, this is an important time to talk about something bad that can happen. Let's break our way through the lobby and make our way to Bob-omb Battlefield's door. Because of the way the blocks load in, and because of all the object collision around us, it's possible to get stuck in a space by accident that is too small for Mario. Mario will get squished down as if he's being crushed, but because there is no way to get out of the situation, he'll just sit there for like 5 seconds before the game just deletes him from existence and instantly kills the player. You cannot move at all when this happens, and it always causes instant death. Well, you know, not instant, but it might as well be since you can't do anything before you get erased from existence. We need to be careful when clearing the door so we can move Mario cautiously to the painting without getting crushed. Slope geometry like this staircase and dips in the flooring can spell doom if we accidentally get near them and get sucked in due to the collision vacuum of all the different surfaces interacting. Once we're inside, it's time to make a choice. So we're off to defeat King Bob-omb, but the problem is, once we start heading into the madness that is the Corkbox maze, it's easy to get lost if we lose sight of the ground. The ground can be super helpful for understanding where you are if you play the game way too many times and basically imagine it in your head. If we do decide to build a staircase, well, once we reach the top, this is what we're going to see. A world of tan cork material as far as the eyes can see. Carving out the level block by block is such a weird experience, because it feels like you're in a tight cave just waiting to unearth something familiar. And once you get that piece of familiarity, you suddenly feel confident in knowing where you're tunneling to. Heading up top is a different story. Up here, it's impossible to tell where you are, and as soon as you get turned around, you might forget what direction is what. I decided to take the sky approach and felt out where I want to dig for gold. You can tell I'm not an experienced Minecraft player because I'm digging straight down, but I need to find familiar ground. I felt this method would be way faster for an open level like Bob-omb Battlefield, since the place I needed to go to was on top of the level anyways. But even then, you can't see the mountain summit. So I kept digging around hoping I'd find something familiar. After a few attempts, I found what I believed to be part of the mountain, so I dug it out and started to carve out the path around it. That's when I realized I was only a few blocks down, meaning I had to be near the top because I couldn't see the mountaintop from above. So I went topside and dug down, and I found the top platform. Now I just had to punch around until I dug out King Bob-omb from his royal tomb. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was basically carving out the boss fight arena because suddenly King Bob-omb started talking to me through the walls. King Bob-omb grabbed me and threw me against the ceiling, but I couldn't take damage due to all the blocks around me. However, due to Mario hitting all sorts of collision, it could force me into weird areas. One throw squeezed me back down to a tunnel below, and I feared that I could get pushed under a block and die like before. So I went back up and channeled my inner Minecraft Steve as I cleared away a decent amount of the blocks. It's really weird fighting King Bob-omb this way. He sometimes can't go through blocks, and other times he can. I actually got my first hit off on him by throwing him up onto a block, which I didn't think was going to be possible. I assumed he'd jump back and call me a cheater for throwing him off the mountain. After making him drop, I gave him a second toss, and he took damage, but did retreat back to his spawning point. With one hit to go, I decided to defeat him above the arena floor. His star was mine, but now I somehow had to race a turtle through all this nonsense, and I wasn't looking forward to it. So the funny thing is, when you leave the painting, it actually puts you back inside the painting because there is no place for Mario to land. So Mario is actually standing out of bounds behind the painting when we land. So as soon as the conversation is done, we appear back inside. Now, going into Koopa the Quick, I was worried. Something told me this guy was going to be a nightmare to race. Either he was going to get stuck against cork boxes, meaning I'd have to carve out a path for him, or he'd run through them and leave me in the dust. And when I started the race, this dude just straight up scaled a cork box wall and disappeared. So I had to plan ahead. So before even approaching him, I knew I had to carve out an escape path for me. I needed a staircase first and foremost to get topside, something I could climb quickly. And once I was up top, I knew I needed to dig out the flag and find solid ground. Thankfully, the flag sticks out in a sea of cork boxes, so I was very easily able to locate it and dig it out of the cork sea. Now that I had a path for myself, I went back to Koopa the Quick and hoped that I could beat him. I assumed he went up top, ran across all the boxes, and made it to the flag. But as I raced up my staircase, I noticed that I couldn't see him. But then I realized what was happening. So he was climbing the entire stack of boxes at their edge, and then falling between the hairline fractures between them. Rinse and repeat, or so for the most part. Once he got to the flag area, he abandoned this behavior and just ran around and jumped to the flag. It was kind of funny, honestly. I was curious to see if anything changed, but every time I got here, he'd do something different. Either way, we get our star and move on. Next up is shoot to the island in the sky. Or rather, excavate the forgotten island from the ground. So there's a pretty reliable formula to find the island right away. You basically tunnel upwards until you come topside. And once you're there, you look for the ring of coins in the middle of the stage above you. What you're seeing is the last circle of coins that you normally shoot through with the cannon for the last star. So if we predict the cannon's trajectory, we just start digging down and out backwards from where the final ring is. As we do this, we'll find other rings within the blocks that will eventually lead us to the island. So the block we are looking for is near the edge of the island. So once a corner of the island reveals itself, we can use that to follow the island around. Just keep smashing and smashing, and eventually, as we clear away the rubble on the island, we'll find the block above us in one of the corners. It's ours to collect, but I warn you, only pain and suffering awaits us, because the hardest mission in this entire setup is coming up next. And I kid you not, this star alone took me like 4 hours. It's absolutely ridiculous. When you hear the name, find the 8 red coins, you normally think this is a breeze walk, but it was this mission that truly tested my limits, because there's an unknown horror lurking in this world of blocks, and it's called overloading the game. So normally when I was playing up until this point, I honestly wasn't paying much attention to how many blocks I was spawning when digging. The game ran smoothly and it never chugged. But little did I know, I was introducing 60 objects to the game every few seconds, and that comes with a price. So my first coin I decided to go after was the one on the rotating platforms not far from Chain Chomp. I knew if I just Minecrafted my way block by block down a dirt path, that eventually I'd find the wooden ramp, the start of my true Minecraft tunnel. Once I got to the top of the wooden ramp, I unearthed the platforms. But one thing to note is that the platforms can move through the blocks, so it's possible to get smashed here. It is an instant death, but it does still hurt. I ended up digging around and above the platforms to grab my first coin. And after this, it was time to face my fears with Chain Chomp. You can't really see Chain Chomp when you're digging towards him, but you just have to trust that he can pop out at any moment and steal your life away. There's actually no way to approach Chain Chomp head on, since he'll always be waiting for you, and you have to move into his range to attack the blocks by him. So I knew the only chance I had was to go above Chain Chomp and power drill myself to his post super fast. Seeing his face pop out of the blocks was super creepy, but I ended up building a staircase above him and guesstimated based on his position. I actually tried to get him to fall off the level, as there's a slim chance he can fall down below, but it never happened. I honestly can't believe I got his post on the first try. I just picked a spot and ground pounded down and was pleasantly surprised when I grabbed the coin. I of course got my sorry butt out of there before he could chomp on me. It's super weird looking down and seeing a post and knowing this is the Chain Chomp's lair, but with 2 coins to my name, I moved on. This next coin took forever to find. So it's the one that is on top of the rocky slope in the back of the field. But there's thousands of blocks between me and that. And going topside wouldn't help because I wouldn't know where I was digging. So I tried digging from landmark to landmark, and my tunnel grew really big and crazy. It was honestly a maze and I was getting lost. And then the game crashed. And I knew I screwed up. Carelessly smashing blocks was not the way. On normal missions, it would be fine, but not on missions where you need to access every part of the level to grab red coins. So this time I made sure I was destroying enough blocks as I proceeded on. I finally found that third blasted red coin, and I knew my next target would be the one on the floating island, which isn't terrible. I spent tons of time destroying excess blocks to lower my object count, and then eventually made a staircase to the surface. Using the coin ring logic as before, I traced a route to the island and started carving out the entire space. I knew I needed to find a tree in here somewhere, and if I followed the coins, they'd take me directly to the cannon that was next to it. By the time I reached the coin, I had already spent 48 minutes on this 1-star mission alone, crashing not included, and I only had half the coins I needed. And this is when time started to rack up. I need to basically treat all these areas like a stone quarry and mine out every last block that wasn't needed, because in order to go to the next area, I was going to have to dig down strategically. I followed the coin route to the other side of the stage and decided my next dig would take place here. But because I couldn't risk spawning blocks, I had to carefully carve out a staircase to get back up. A very precarious staircase. When the game started to crawl, I knew I was one punch away from a crash, unless I deleted more objects in the map. So I would dig, and then retrace my steps to the other parts of the level and clear out more blocks I left behind. I eventually got down to the wooden posts, and I saw the star that spawned from grabbing all the coin rings. I knew the red coins were nearby, so I uncovered the star spawning location, then coin number 5, and then went for coin number 6. At this point, I knew I needed to go through about 500 blocks towards the mountain, but because I needed to dig downwards for coin 6, that meant I would be spawning blocks I wouldn't be able to break. As in, dead weight objects that would bog the game down because they were beneath the map. So I retreated up my poorly designed staircase, broke lots of more blocks, and then returned. We're now 2.5 hours into 1 star, and we're digging for coin 7. We need to go out and down, because coin 7 is below us in the caged off area. At this point, I'm just flat out frustrated. Don't get me wrong, this entire experience is fun, but managing the objects in the game just made this entire dig way more math-based and less careless tunnel creation. If there were no repercussions, I'd be digging like a madman. Oh yeah, the water cannon will destroy you if you are not careful. You're a sitting duck, and it will pass through any and all objects. We need to get out of there as soon as we can. After hitting the hill, I knew it was time to start digging down. 3 hours on the clock. Going for coin 7 was really rough because the area where the coin is at is narrow and underground. So that means as we dig for the coin, we're generating a lot of blocks out of bounds that push us closer and closer to crashing. I was within a 2 to 3 block window of crashing many times, and I had to keep backtracking and shaving off additional blocks so I could push forward. I did my best to clear out all the miscellaneous blocks all around the area, and in the small gated tunnel. Eventually, I uncovered the 7th coin, but even then I did my best to continue to clear out more. The 8th coin, quite honestly, could be the worst part yet. And so I retraced all my steps back out towards the red coin star, and then decided to take out some more spare blocks to make an easier accessible staircase. Now on top, I was preparing for my final dig. And if I can be honest, I chose the wrong spots several times. Trying to pinpoint where I think the coin is based off what little level I can see is actually way harder than I thought. I ended up digging in 2 areas that just connected to my underground passes before, which meant I was going in the wrong direction. It was important to dig down because I couldn't risk generating any more blocks that would be out of bounds and unbreakable. My game wasn't too far off from crashing since I experienced occasional chugging. Eventually, I dug down and saw the side of the mountain. And because I knew the invisible out of bounds wall was immediately to my left, that could only mean I was standing in the area where the big green slope was. The area for the last red coin. So, Master Archaeologist Mario began doing what he does best, digging a massive hole. I had to be careful though, because if I accidentally touched the green hill, I could get stuck sliding on my stomach forever. This is because you can't jump out of a stomach slide, and if the hill is blocked by a box or a wall, you just slide in place with nowhere to go. So I would ground pound near the edges of boxes so I wouldn't fall down, but instead, I grabbed the edge of the box in front of me and pull myself up. My hole was already super deep, but I was closing in on my treasure. I chose the wrong column to dig down in, so I did end up having to go over one section closer down the hill, and after smashing several blocks, there it was. 4 hours and 22 minutes later, I had finally found the last red coin. So I grabbed it and happily retreated back to the red coin star to close out this accomplishment. Now the thing is, star 5 and 6 were technically stars I had already gotten, so to speak. I spawned star 5 already by the coin rings, so going back and doing this again was super quick. By this point, I was a master Minecrafter, and I didn't have to care about block limits because I was only hitting small sections of the level at a time. Star 5 went down, and star 6 gave me a bit of trouble. Now the first time I grabbed this red coin, I got lucky, but this time I got very unlucky. I did the same strategy as last time by going above the chain chomp, but his pillar was close to a wall, so I ground pounded it, causing me to bonk the wall. Then I would panic because I'd be getting torn to shreds. I actually died a few times, and then I finally cleared enough away to pound the pillar in, watch the chain chomp fly through some blocks, and then carve my way into the gated area to grab the last star of the level. Well, there's the 100 coin star, which surprisingly I was only 40 coins off on my red coin mission, but I'd rather keep my sanity today. Playing Super Mario 64 this way is an entirely different experience. It's so bizarre, but so creative. You really have to think about what you're doing to make sure you don't screw yourself over. But yeah, this is Super Mario 64 Minecraft Edition. If you enjoyed this strange tale, subscribe now, because things can only get more bizarre in my videos going forward. Cheers!